Hello, this is DocPenguinDoc. I've created the Millennium Falcon from Star Wars. It has about a dozen logic features included. This part's a voiceover. Later I'm going to be inside of the Falcon doing an interior tour, but this is just to show off all of its capabilities, so to speak. It can dock in a couple of different places. It has starboard and port docking ports, and it also has one dock on top, which we see in episode 5. I'll show it later, more in depth. Here we can see it docking to that top port. In episode 5, the Millennium Falcon has 5 docking feet, so I decided to base off of that version. There was a clip of it landing, and then here we can see them all coming down. I used Plex doors because I could fit a full foot inside of the shell. Now sometimes it'll bug out and you might have to do it a couple times, or like here, it'll usually freeze at this point, and then it'll continue. The cargo ramp, which they use quite frequently obviously, to enter and exit. I was able to incorporate that as well. Sits pretty flush. We never really show this in the movies, but the Millennium Falcon also is commonly shown with 2 cargo elevators, one in the front, one in the back, so I incorporated both of those as well. In episode 5 on Hoth, the Millennium Falcon uses a little infantry turret on the bottom to shoot down some snow troopers, so I also have a retractable cannon. It's got about maybe 270 degrees arc. Can't go up or down, but it is able to fire if they happen to be at this height. It's more so just for show. In episode 5 as well, we see Lando using this top hatch to retrieve Luke. A little elevator, and so does mine. See it peek up right there. In episode 8, we see Rey use an escape pod. At this point, I don't think we'd ever known where the escape pods launched out of the Falcon, so this was a new thing in episode 8. I'm pretty sure it had been determined that it did have escape pods, we just didn't know where they came out of, but either way, I decided to include 4 escape pods. They certainly do not have the safest journey out of the ship. They bounce around quite a bit, depending. But once they become unstuck, you've escaped. Of course, the signature satellite dish I've included up top. It's got full 360 degrees, but just leave it in the signature pose. It's also got, instead of just stationary turrets, we've got fully opposable turrets on top and bottom. They have a full 360 degree arc, and they can they can look straight vertical, both top and bottom. Alright, now we're moving on to the live narration segment, and also the interior tour of my Millennium Falcon. So you can enter through either any number of entrances. There's the docking ports, the elevators, or the cargo ramp, as they typically use. So when entering, there's gravity ports on most of the major entrances on the ship. Also throughout the ship, the doors are all rails for the most part, just to spiffy it up a bit, since this is sort of my coup de grace, so to speak, or whatever that's called. Also, the two front landing feet, the flex doors do stick out, so the first one is right here, the other one is right here, so just keep that in mind. Just try to ignore them. So entering up to the cockpit hallway, here we are. This is the Millennium Falcon cockpit. It's got a gravity block right down there, and then right here is the cargo for the whole ship. It's got about 15,000 volume units. So there's elevator. So there's buttons right here, just if you're role playing up in the cockpit, for the landing gear, cargo ramp, the cargo elevator, and the top hatch. So you can control all of those from here. We'll come back up to the cockpit later to go over the ship systems, but for now, we're just looking through the interior. So here we have the main room. Right here is the holo chess table that they play at. This is normally closed. We'll go into that room later, but there's a bunk above there. Over here we have a little station that Han sits at while he's watching Obi-Wan train Luke with that remote droid. And over here we have this little back little maintenance area that Han and Leia are in, kissing when C-3PO interrupts them. And down here we have the left docking port with another gravity block. And over here we have the top hatch access with an elevator that lifts you up so that you can access the top. And another button that would normally bring you back down. There you go. And over here we have access to the chamber, the reactor. These are actual active blocks from it, so we can actually access it from here. Here we have the crew bunks, and the refresher, as it's called in Star Wars. I don't think we've ever seen this room, so it's mostly just for show. Over here we have the engineering room. So here we have the hyperdrive with its in-universe name, class rating, and then also it shows the current sector and system you are in-game. And that actually updates as you're moving around. Here we have the sublight engine with its in-universe name and MGLT, and then it also shows your actual in-game current speed. Back here we have the secondary cargo hold. There are cargo blocks in here. Then there's also escape pods. I've already launched a couple of them in previous takes, but you basically push the button and enter the ship, and it'll launch you out. And then right here we have the cargo elevator, which takes you down. And makes more sense if you're landed, of course, but you can leave the ship. And there's obviously a gravity block if that is how you choose to enter the ship. Then coming back around full circle, we're back at the right docking port. Now taking a look at this cargo transfer hatch up front, you can enter it, and then you can see this grants you access to the front mandibles. There's also, it shows the cargo capacity. This docking status is actually, it'll update depending on whether or not you're docked or not to like a station or whatever. And then it shows the mandibles cargo capacity, which is the freight train which I built, which I will show off later in a little bit. And then here we have another little cargo room, and then we have this forward elevator which takes you down outside as well. It seems to be a bit broken right now, but there you go. I don't know why they all took 2 tries. There you go. Use this button to get back up. And there you go. Then, moving back out, we'll take a look at the systems. Here we are with the ship systems. So, let's start off with the cameras. The core view, I should say, is rather limiting from this position, but you also have one for the top turret. You have the mandibles, you have the bottom turret. This one is supposed to be the cockpit. These, I don't know if camera views save, like on the dock, but you can place them wherever you want. If they don't, and then also the infantry turret. I'd say the mandible view is usually the best, but nonetheless, moving on to systems, take a look at the stats over on the left here. So these are the dimensions. I tried to keep it, relatively close to 1-to-1. I don't know how. It's not perfect, but then you also have your shields. There's one shield, 6,750 capacity, 460 recharge. Thrusters, we have a 4.8 thrust mass ratio, 544.1 maximum speed, and then for the reactor, we have 100% of the capacity. We have a short-range scanner base with efficiency 2 and strength 3 for the dish up top. We have a maxed out jump drive, of course, because this is the Millennium Falcon. We have reactor base enhancement, because I tried to keep this a level 1 reactor, so it's just shy of 200 blocks. Then we have the mobility chamber, which gives it turn rate 1, top speed 1. And as for system abilities, you have 2 top and bottom turrets, which you can fire with this rail turret access. I would say the best view is if you go into this free cam mode, and then you use them from here. You can control both of them in a full 360 view. Of course, that's only if you're the pilot. You can also access these cores for the turrets themselves, and then control them from inside, where you can get a much better, much more stable view and such. So I'd say that's the ideal way to do it if you do have a co-pilot or a gunner or whatever. They are just for show though, so it's not going to actually be too useful. Maybe as a missile defense system, that's about it. These rails are for the front freight train, or eventually I'll do Lando's version. In that case, it'll be for his escape pod. In terms of other systems, apart from the rail turret access, we have 2 missiles, both of which are just simple, 1 block things. They're just for show. So they don't do really any effect. Let's take a look. They do 200 damage per missile, so that's pretty much nothing. These turrets, they do about 40, I believe. So also, they're just for show. Here we have the scanner computer and the jump drive, both of which, you can charge up and still move around. There's enough power to go around for everything, pretty much. The scanner, it's got strength 5 up top, you can see. And then there's also these 2 tractor beams, which you use from these front mandibles to pull, push, hold your giant freight train out front. And then on top of that, you have the dockers on the left, the top, and the right. And then these on your second hotbar, you'll see all of the things that I showed in the first part. So the cargo ramp, the landing gear, the elevator, the forward elevator, the top hatch, the infantry turret, and all these various, features that I've included. I haven't seen any other ships on the dock that have nearly this many rail features on their Millennium Falcons, especially not at this size. And I don't think I've seen any of them with this infantry turret, so. But besides that, let's load in the freight train. Here we have the cargo freight train. So this, you can simply enter through this front area, and to dock it, you just hold the docker. It's roughly right about where the core is. You line it up with this rail block here, and then you just back right into it. When you're locked in, it'll come up into the Falcon itself, which you can look at. Oh, see, if you come out of gravity, there's gravity block right there, and you're in the core. It'll load into the mandibles out front. Now let's go take a look. Inside, there really isn't an interior, they're just cargo pods. Got over 5,000 cargo capacity, so they're quite large. Here's the forward elevator is having a bit of a fit, so you can fit through. You can also see in space, so it's not airtight or whatever. There is this, I tried out a with sensors, a sort of airlock. I've never tried something like that before, so it might not work perfectly. So it's the CEC Freight Train, or Corellian Engineering Corporation. It's got 4 pods, 500 plus 1,000 cargo capacity. As we can see in here, if I can open it. Maybe not. If I go in build mode, I can definitely open it. I see there's rails. So you have to be in build mode to activate, or to look in this, unless if you're undocked from the Falcon. Because the Falcon's rails interfere with that. But, so the design, there's a reference picture if you look up, Millennium Falcon freight train or whatever. Tried to copy that. The picture itself looks almost identical to the train that you see in Solo that they try and pick up from Pandora or whatever that planet is called. So I don't know if that train is based off of this, but they do look almost identical. Or if this freight train is based off of that, I don't really know which came first. But moving back into the Falcon itself, you can see when you add on this, your thrust mass ratio goes down from like 4.8 to 2.5. Max speed is down to 330.3, but that's more or less what the old maximum was, so it's not even too bad. I don't know, I've never tried filling these up with cargo. I assume that affects your thrust, but I could be mistaken. So I don't know how well it'll perform if you fully load up this thing, but if it does still work, you've got yourself a pretty decently sized freight, vehicle. Yeah, so I don't rant on, I'll just finish it up here. I think I've covered everything. So this is one of my first build. I think this is I'll just give a brief history. That's what I'm doing. So the Falcon is about my 6th version, I think. I'm trying to build a Falcon. I've tried to scale it down a little bit, try and keep it roughly 1-to-1 scale, and I've tried to incorporate as many systems as I could into it that we see in the movies. I don't think I've seen anyone else on the dock have something this close to it. I would say if you do download this, feel free to try and up the systems inside of it a little bit. I'm kind of an amateur when it comes to systems, so if you can make it actually, useful in combat or whatever, feel free. Hopefully I'll be making a Lando one soon that you can download. And apart from that, yeah, that's about it. So this is DocPenguinDoc signing off. See you around the galaxy.